To learn about the off-grid lifestyle and to be inspired to live your dreams, click subscribe so you don't miss anything. Hit the bell notification. Okay, so I'm back at the tiny house build again today, and I'm going to continue putting on the metal siding, the metal roofing material. I'm so close to being finished. So the other day I made a mistake hanging the metal roof over here on this wall, and it broke my heart. It still kind of aggravates. For those who are just now catching up, you'll see that I messed up and I had to put a scrap piece over the existing piece, which made a seam. It's unsightly. I don't like it. I feel bad that Carolyn has to live in a non-perfect house. However, we are going to put a piece of trim there. What I think we have decided is we're going to get a 1x6. We're going to paint it the same color as the soffit plate. We had that paint left over. We'll put that 1x6 over that. A couple of reasons. One, if I use the metal, I'd have to screw it in every couple, at every ridge, which introduces the opportunity for leaking. Water can run down that and leak. So what I'm thinking is just screw in a 1x6, one at this side, one over here underneath the trim that's already up. Screw it over here on this side, firm enough that it's not going to make any difference. Of course, I might have to replace it every 100 years, repaint it, but that's fine. But a lot of people made a lot of suggestions, and this always happens on YouTube videos, is hindsight is 20/20. Oh yeah, could have, would have, should have done it, Here's the thing. A lot of people suggested that I should have started with this panel, come over to the window, stop, come over to this side, come over to the window, and stop. One guy says, I have 15 years experience hanging metal siding, that's what you're supposed to do. Well, that absolutely makes no sense to me. Everything about metal roofing material says you can't do that, and it just doesn't make any sense how that would work. These things are directional. Whatever side you start on is the side you got to continue moving towards. The reason is because each panel overlaps the previous panel. So here, I don't know if you can see it, but you can see my fingers are underneath this. This panel has to overlap this panel. More specifically, there is an edge right here on the panel that the other panel goes over. So when you screw the top panel down, your screw is going to catch the top panel and this edge. So trying to demonstrate, you'll see that this piece has an edge, this piece doesn't. So you slide that over on top of each other. Well, if you go from the other way, you would have to probably cut this panel at some point, and so you wouldn't have this overlap. It wouldn't work. So 15 years of experience, I feel sorry for all his customers because that's not the way you're supposed to do it, and it just won't work. Now, a lot of people suggested that we put an awning up there, just use some of the scrap material, put an awning up there. That's kind of a good idea, but Carolyn doesn't like awnings. That's fine. A lot of people said I should have just made the seam over here before I even got started. Well, that there is just hindsight. Yeah, maybe I should have now that I know that I've messed up, but I didn't want to have seams in the first place. And then finally somebody suggested that I'm supposed to put the scrap piece that I covered up my mistake with underneath the bottom piece. Well, what happens then is water would come down, hit the top piece, and run down under the other piece, and then come around the window, and it would start rotting everything out. So today I learned a lot of things about advice. All through this build, I've called myself an amateur. I really have. And I am an amateur. So when a commenter tells me something, I kind of think, well, maybe I should look that up and see. And 9 times out of 10, what I'm doing is okay, it's not a problem. But this time, somebody telling me they got 15 years experience doing something, and there's just absolutely no way that would work. Every manufacturer that makes metal paneling produces this stuff where it overlaps each other. It's designed to be that way. Well, today I've got the same basic cut, but I realized what my mistake was, is I was trying to find what they call a datum point, actually. See, I took schooling on measuring. It's called metrology, the science of measure. I ran what was called a CMM machine for manufacturing for years. And you always had to find measurements out in space. And it's called GD&T, geometrical dimensioning and tolerancing is what it's called. It's been so long that I couldn't get that out of my mouth. It's been years. And so that's what I'm trying to do, is I'm trying to find datum points. Every print says, okay, here is your basic starting point on this part. Blueprint says that. So that's what I'm trying to design, is a datum point. Well, today I learned from my mistake on the other side. And what I was trying to do before was I was trying to establish a datum point on the window. I'm not trying to confuse you. I'm really not. And so I was out here in the middle of space with a level hanging out there, and it was just a big mess. Well, what I really should have done was just started at the bottom and worked my way up. And so I've learned my lesson. I'm not trying to be all fancy this time. I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up. So today I've hung a scrap piece here over the door, and that's the bottom, and I'm going to work my way up. So here you can see I have what's called a plumb bob. I'm using my chalk line. So what that's going to help me do is up here you'll see maybe that I have my plumb bob right at the peak. So the piece that I have to lay out actually extends past the peak. So I got to know where the peak is on my panel that I'm getting ready to cut out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure from over here where the panel starts to over here, and then I can identify where my peak is. Then I can cut this portion off up there. I can cut this portion off. I can make my angle over on this portion. Also, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lay my paneling over here so I can get a visual picture of it. I can look at it. I was doing it in the back of the truck before, and that was working out fine when I was working on the other side. But this side, it's hard to get a mental picture of it. Okay, I got my panel cut out. I don't know if you can actually see the angle, but I got my door cut out here because well, not half, a little bit more than half of the panel has got to wrap around the door. So this is the top part of the door here. This is my angle right here. It comes up to the peak and it comes back down. So not much there. Now I've already put that angle up against the wall. It did fit. So the only thing I have to do now is hope that the door fits. But I wanted to show you something for those that were saying that you can cut the panel and go work both ways. Here's the problem if you start cutting panels in midsections. There's no hump here. So if I were to try to lay that over, see the overlap you would have to have? And that would be very unsightly. That's what you try to prevent. You want your seam to be right at the edge. That way it's not visible. So to show you the difference, I'll put the seam right here, and right there is the seam. You can see it. It's very visible. Now, there is another seam correctly done right here, and I bet you can't see it. That's the whole point of this, is it's right here. It's right over the hump. I don't see how a professional would make that work. There is no information that I could find that showed me how to cut a panel and make it seamless like that. Okay, so I'm going to try to get this panel up there and hope it fits around the door. It fits! I got another one. I mean, I made a little bit of mistake. I was off by 1 inch, but this time it was to cut off more material, so I wasn't in any risk. Okay, so roughly half the wall's done. Maybe, well, obviously a little bit more than half the wall is done. By what, by 4 inches, 3 inches? Oh, it makes me feel so good when things go right. One of the things that concerns me about the comment section and social media in general is the misinformation, the terrible information. It's not that, I'm concerned that somebody's lying to me, because I straight up think they are sometimes. I mean, 15 years of experience, and he's going to do something that is absolutely incorrect. What bothers me is some people will confirm other people's thinking. I don't even remember what it was, but one person said something and another person said, oh yeah, that's a great idea. I think he should do that. And it was like, no, I don't think I can do that. That won't work. So here, somebody gave somebody else the confirmation that it's okay to do something wrong. What if the guy with the 15 years experience would have had several people comment, oh, that's a good idea, I'm going to try it. And then, you know, they would have cut a bunch of pieces towards his suggestion, and the place would have been ruined. These things aren't cheap. The shipping cost is outrageous. The reason I try to bring these things up is not just for my benefit, but for your benefit too. If you're reading the comment section and you see somebody say, huh, he should have done it this way, you might want to look it up yourself and actually go to the manufacturer's website so you can find out the real information. I encourage you to find out the real information from the manufacturer instead of from YouTube comment section. I hope I can inspire you to build your dream. Thanks for watching.